Welcome into the latest edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel, and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast with my partner, Gordon Wittenmyer. I'm David Kaplan. It's all brought to you by our great partners at the Illinois Tollway and their If Only campaign. Folks, we've all said it before. If only I had slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new campaign is called If Only. And it's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk, it affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they'd done things differently. So take the extra time, slow down, save lives. Lives, including yours, depend on it. That is the Illinois Tollway and their If Only campaign. Please slow down. All right, Gordon. So I had a long drive yesterday. I'm in the car for like 3 hours. I said, I'm going to just start going through my Rolodex, use an old man's term, and I'm going to call as many.
You really do have a Rolodex, don't you?
Yeah, one of those things you spin, has all the little cards on it. No, but I have
your cell phone
right here.
Dial up? You got a dial on your cell phone?
I have a dial-up cell phone. Exactly. I've got this trusty phone here with I don't know how many thousands of contacts. So I'm sending texts. You got a second? You got a second? It's a Sunday morning. I know. I want to talk. And so I was able to glean a lot of information. Let's start with this. Multiple people, some of whom have been high-level executives in baseball, said to me, you better set your sights a little lower there, Sparky, because right now, the untold story, they said, all your friends in the media, none of you are talking about this. I said, what's that? So many teams know what the looming labor problem is after 26, and they're within, we'll call it 4 games of the wild card, that their ownership's saying, we can't sell right now. We need to keep bringing butts in seats. We need to bring in as much money as we can. And so we're not willing to divest our assets unless we truly believe internally we're out of it. So,
okay, wait, hold up. There are some teams that simply doesn't apply to. The Miami Marlins are one of them. They don't draw enough that it matters. The Rockies don't draw enough that it matters. The A's don't draw enough that it matters. Most of the teams that are out of it, honestly, don't draw enough that it matters.
Okay, so if you look at the standings in Major League Baseball and you go to the wild card, okay? In the wild card, we'll start in the American League. The wild card has the Yankees, the Rays, and the Mariners all in if the season ended today. You have Boston just 2.5 back. And I said to somebody, I wonder if my Cubs could get Aroldis Chapman. He said, why would Boston trade Aroldis Chapman based on today?
Yeah, they're playing. I just saw Boston. They're playing well.
They are.
And Aroldis Chapman hasn't pitched this well since he was a Cub.
Been amazing. He said, now again, we have a little over 3 weeks to the deadline. He said, let's see where they go. And you better hope they lose some games and look up and go, oh, we're 6 back. How many teams? All right, trade him and get a good prospect in. I said, how about the Rangers? Eovaldi, DeGrom. He said, you can stop with the Jacob DeGrom. They have a veteran manager who was brought there to win. He's not trading a guy or asking a guy with a no trade clause. But he said, Eovaldi, Texas is 4 back. Let's see where they go. The Angels, he called a mirage. He goes, the Angels, they're not that good. At some point, they're going to be willing to divest. You're not trading for Mike Trout. They're not blessed with great talent. Good team. They're playing well. Minnesota, he said Minnesota, Kansas City, Cleveland, those are the teams you should be looking at. And he said, I would trade. In his opinion, this is a guy who watches a lot of baseball, has been a GM. He said, in my opinion, if I was the Cubs, I'd go get a filler for my rotation pretty quickly. He named Adrian Hauser as being one of those guys. He said, I would trade for him. I would trade for Mike Tauchman. And that way I have an extra outfielder. And then as we get right down to the deadline, he said, watch Kansas City and Arizona. Either get Merrill Kelly or Seth Lugo. So if I told you the Cubs were able to get Adrian Hauser and Seth Lugo, is that a successful deadline?
Yeah, I mean, it's those successful deadlines are always measured after the fact with 2020 hindsight. You'd like to think they'd be able to go a little bit bigger than that. But if you were able to get both those guys, I don't think I'd have a problem with that.
But when you say go bigger, who's bigger? Who is bigger? Seth Lugo was second to Cy Young last year.
Your guy didn't apparently mention the Marlins. I mean, there's a couple of guys there. He's not a Contra
fan, and he does not believe Cabrera is getting moved.
Yeah, that's too bad. Cabrera would be terrific. 4 more years at club control, I think. So I would say, on balance, yeah, that would be successful. You still need to get bullpen help. I know they're pitching well. I know they've pitched well since May. You can never have enough bullpen in the postseason, and we know how that looks when this bullpen doesn't perform. And when they're facing a good lineup, a contact lineup, boy, you just want that other arm, that other option. You want somebody else in there. So I mean, so that's huge. I didn't hear any bats. Are we off of bats?
No, he also believes that if he thinks that the trade to be made is with the Diamondbacks. He said, if the Diamondbacks, who right now, as you and I tape, are 44 and 46, 4.5 games back of the top 3 in the wild card, the Mets, the Brewers, San Diego, and then San Francisco. The San Diego and San Francisco are tied. The Arizona Diamondbacks, 4.5 back of the final wild card spot. He said, if they have a bad 3 weeks, they're going to sell. He said, and if they do, I think you can make a trade. This is him saying it, not me, for Eugenio Suarez and Merrill Kelly.
Both of them. That would be a blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give up for that?
Tell me, what do I have to give up?
Right. I mean, basically your farm system, which, as long as it's not, Cade Horton. Yeah.
I'm not giving up Cade Horton, and I'm not giving him Jackson Wiggins. But Owen Casey, who's been amazing. Kevin Alcantara, would I give him up? Yep. James Triantos, yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think all those guys have to be in play.
Moises Ballesteros, I'm in.
Is this
Ben Brown?
You and I kind of agree they have to go in hard. There's just, look, you know what they did over the weekend against the Cardinals? Took care of business in a big way. That game Sunday.
5-1 on the homestand.
There's one play in that game on Sunday that said something to me, spoke to me in terms of why that front office needs to do everything it can for those guys in the clubhouse. And that was that Ian Happ play. They're already beating the Cardinals' asses going away. It's a blowout. And here's Ian Happ trying to beat out a grounder.
That was a terrible call. Terrible call.
Yeah, I mean, these in base, out of the baseline calls are so hard to predict right now. I think it was that last step that he used to launch that was just outside the running lane. I get it, but
the fact that base.
Right, the fact that he did it in the first place, he looked for it the whole time in a blowout, beat it, believed he was safe, and was shocked and argued about it when he wasn't. I mean, lost his mind for a moment because his head was so into the play, even in this blowout. That's part of what's going on with this team this year. And there's something different than in a few recent years, than the last 2 years when they were good teams, when they had a chance. 23, they were in it late. There's something different that's going on in there. There's a confidence level, a belief level, a focus level, a will to win level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the talent is maybe there already, but certainly close to being a team that's got a right to think it can win in October and match up against just about anybody. And the pitching is what's going to make that difference. If you get a Tyone that goes down, if you get Matt Boyd is the MVP of that pitching staff. No question about it. Rightfully an all-star and the whole thing. If you were to lose a guy like him, you've already lost Steele. If you were to lose Imanaga right ahead of the playoffs, you need more depth. You got to go, and it's got to be. This has got to be the biggest trade deadline for them since 16, maybe, since they were making the NLCS every year. It's got to be the most aggressive since then. And so Merrill Kelly and Eugenio Suarez, hell yeah, sign up for that right now, and spend whatever's in the farm system to get that done. The Lugo scenario, who was the other guy with Lugo that you mentioned?
I mentioned Seth Lugo. I mentioned David Bednar with Pittsburgh. I talked about this morning. Mitch Keller is out there. Merrill Kelly.
It was a fill in, and then Lugo. Sign up for that. I'm sure Jed's got his irons in every fire, and keep banging on a Marlins door until they slam it in your face. Whether that's Alcantara or Cabrera, whomever.
I just have a feeling that multiple guys said to me over the weekend, I would not trade for Sandy Alcantara.
Here's the thing about it.
They said his command is his bite is They said velocity's back, but they go, dude, he's got an ERA almost 7, and you're giving a big package for that?
His best month was June, and it was really good until his last start. And so I just keep thinking, I just can't help thinking somebody's going to trade for this guy, and they're going to get what Walker Buehler was at the end of last season into the postseason. They're going to get what Matt Boyd was when he came back last year. Somebody's going to get that down the stretch from him when they go to trade for him. I just keep feeling that. I could be wrong. But here's the other side of the Alcantara equation. Cabrera right now is a much more valuable trade chip. He's got 4 years of club control left, and he's performing his ass off. There's going to be a lot of teams that, if they're willing to give him up, are going to make offers for him at probably a higher price than Alcantara. And
why would they give him up? For what reason? If you're the Marlins, at some point, either you try to win or move out of Miami. He's good. Right. He's young and he's cheap.
Right. But have you seen the way they operate from ownership on down? I mean, if they think they can get a 4-for-1 that they think is good and moving forward, I mean, hell, why not keep Alcantara then? Because he's under contract for 2 more years, but they'll want to shed this $15 million a year.
What's Edward Cabrera make? 1.75? There's a big difference.
I think 1.95, something like that. He's an arbitration guy. He's got one more year arbitration, I think, and then 3 of I'm sorry,
1.95 this year. He's got 3 more ARB years.
Yeah. He was a super 2. That's it. Yeah. So, you could get him and maybe try to sign him. You get him and play out his ARB years. He's a really valuable commodity in this trade market. That's why they would. They're out of it. They're out of it for who knows how damn long. They haven't tried to win in years. So if the trade deadline and you've got that valuable a commodity, and you mentioned we were talking. You mentioned the looming possible trade war coming up. I mean, not trade war. The labor war.
Yep.
The possible labor stoppage coming up. Possibly a change of rules. The Marlins might not be in position to be making decisions of when they want to try to win yet. And if that's the case, then continue to stockpile and cut salary. That's the way they've operated for years anyway.
So people keep asking, would Texas trade Jacob deGrom? The answer is no.
Well, we thought that was kind of pie in the sky anyway, right?
We did. He's an all-star. He's got $95 million left, and he says, I signed with Texas because I want to be a Ranger. That's why I got a full no trade. Now, would he turn down a chance to go to the Cubs? Probably not, but I just don't think they're interested in trading him. That's what I hear.
And yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to give up a lot, and then you're gonna have to pay a lot. So there's the Cubs side of that equation as well. So because I don't think the Rangers will pay it down. I don't think the Cubs have enough to offer for that to happen. So no, and I don't think you necessarily need Jacob deGrom to get this done.
I don't disagree. Nate Eovaldi, that one might intrigue me in 3 weeks.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I think you should be in on that for sure.
If you look at the rest of the National League, Colorado has a couple decent bullpen arms. They don't really have anybody else that you would lust after, so to speak.
And it's hard to tell on those guys, right? You really have to have good scouts to go in and trade for pitching out of Colorado, because you got to believe that you can get a guy that change of scenery into a more normal environment is going to amp him.
Okay, Pittsburgh, Washington. Washington just fired Mike Rizzo and their manager, Davey Martinez. They're not going to let an interim GM blow up their team, and they're not trading Mackenzie Gore. So
they got the number one. They got the number one draft pick coming up. They're thinking that they might be winning next year. Okay,
the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mitch Keller. He's okay. A lot of money left there. David Bednar, I would be interested.
Deal with Pittsburgh. They're not going to trade with the Cubs.
What about David Bednar?
I like him. Yeah.
I hear the Cubs on him. Atlanta, I hear that Atlanta believes we can contend next year. We're really not in the business of blowing up what we've got. They may trade some guys who are, final year of deals.
Right.
But they're not blowing up their team. They're not. There's no Ronald Acuña's hitting the market.
Yeah. One of the Cubs.
Go ahead.
One of the Cubs' advantages is going to be targeting guys that have money on their deals, that are under contract for some kind of money, because that's going to take some buyers out of the market. If the Reds decide to be buyers, for instance, and they're trying to be buyers, they're not going to they wouldn't take on a Sandy Alcantara salary, I don't think, even if they had the player capital they were willing to give up for it. And even if that was what they wanted, I don't think that they're taking on $17 million. And there's other teams in that realm that just aren't going to take on a salary, an 8-figure salary.
Correct. So we talked about Atlanta. Arizona, we talked about. I would love to see them get Eugenio Suarez and Merrill Kelly. You mentioned the Reds, the Cardinals, and that is the extent of the National League. So in a nutshell, Luis Severino, would you trade for him? He's been outstanding on the road, terrible in Sacramento.
Yeah. He's a guy. He's one of those guys. When he's been healthy, he's been a really good pitcher. And
okay. So you've got
tell me something too. That's a crap stadium and environment to be pitching in Sacramento. So that tells me.
So here's your list of pitchers: Adrian Hauser from the White Sox, Severino from the Athletics, potentially Dean Kramer from Baltimore. I don't know what Cleveland's willing to trade. Are they going to trade Emmanuel Clase? I would doubt it, but they have lost 10 in a row. Kansas City, Seth Lugo. What do the Twins have? They're 5 back in the wild card with the Cubs for 3. They could wake up and be in real trouble.
Yeah, they've been no better than on the fence for a month or more.
So what do the Twins have that you would trade for?
Let me look at their group. I got a couple thoughts off the top of my head. I want to make sure they're
Bailey Ober's on the IL. Chris Paddock is around. Griffin Jacks you have. Joan Duran, are you trading for him as a closer, bringing him in? Maybe. But that's about it. It's not like they're loaded. It's not.
Yeah, they're not, which is why they're not doing well.
So you've got the Cubs are going to have to probably overpay because of the lack of teams willing to sell, at least on the 7th of July. And the second thing is there's not that many great players out there.
Yeah, and everybody wants pitching, right? So it's going to make that a tougher market. Twins have a few relievers in there. I don't know that there's a starter I'd go wild after. You know,
Chris Paddock, the depth guy for me.
That's all he is.
So the guys then that you feel like could pitch really well for you: Seth Lugo, Luis Severino, Merrill Kelly. Who else is out there? Mitch Keller. That's 4. Who else?
I wonder if is Lopez hurt?
He's been banged up all year.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you're going to get these number one starters. Everyone says they've got to go all in. I think Jed's willing to go all in. I don't know who he's going all in for.
You're the guy that brought up Chris Sale and DeGrom in recent podcasts.
And Chris Sale got hurt. Now he's out till late August.
Yeah, which could make him an interesting. Could make him an interesting bargain play if you're willing to take him on. Because the market isn't going to be all that strong for him. But if you really thought that he'd come back and you'd have him for September, keep in mind, man, that the Cubs are they're trading for October. They're not trading to get over the hump to get there. So now, could some team like Milwaukee just got Woodruff back? Milwaukee is playing really well. They're getting better. Could they catch the Cubs? I suppose it's possible. Sure, if the Cubs didn't do much or anything, yeah, they could catch them. But realistically, the Cubs are a playoff team right now, as is. And so what you're playing for right now, what you're trading for right now, is wins in October. And so if you think that Chris Sale is going to be healthy at the end of August, or even be at full
make the deal now.
So if he's a bargain trade and you're willing to take on the money, I mean, hell, man, it's what's his injury? Oblique or something? It's not even his arm. So, man, I just imagine having him healthy, getting his legs under him in September down the stretch and being full strength in October. Now throw him into your mix. It's a lot of lefties, but nonetheless, I mean, good ones. I mean, you got a chance to win a lot of games. Imagine going up against Philly with all those lefties.
Yeah, and that's what the Cubs struggle with is left-handed pitching.
Oh, I got a thought on that. You want to hear my thought on that?
Yeah, tell me.
I was thinking about that just the other day. I was thinking about the Cubs struggle a little bit with lefties. The team I'm around most often, the Reds, struggle with lefties. I was thinking, you hear that a lot these days. And I was thinking, wait a minute. Look at all the great lefties out there, right? Tarek Skubal and Chris Sale, the guy in Cincinnati has a 2 ERA.
Andrew Abbott.
Mm-hmm. You got Imanaga and Boyd on the Cubs staff. And I thought, maybe there's just better lefties than there have been in a long time. And so I looked it up. Left-handed starting pitchers in Major League Baseball, there's they have a 3.60 combined ERA. All the left-handed starters in Major League Baseball have a combined 3.60 ERA. The average ERA in Major League Baseball right now is 4.07. The average for right-handed starters in Major League Baseball right now is 4.25. That's 0.65 better, the lefties, than the righties. Now, there's way more righties, so there's way more shit righties. But you'd think there'd be more great righties, too. So I think we're seeing a time right now when, gone are the days when the most effective, you had one power pitching lefty and everybody else was a finesse guy. They're all power pitching lefties now. They're all coming at you. You don't see as many of them. And when they bring that spin rate and that velocity that they bring nowadays.
Totally different game.
And so maybe when you look at the splits, which aren't the Cubs splits, they're there, but they're not huge. Maybe the Cubs are hitting lefties as well as anybody.
254 against left-handers, and their on-base percentage against lefties is 312.
Yeah, and 257 against righties, 328 against righties. It's not a huge gap. Maybe they're doing okay against lefties.
Yeah, no doubt.
These days. Hey, how about this one? There's 6 teams in Major League Baseball whose lefties have an ERA under 3. Detroit, Boston, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, and Cincinnati. That's starters, lefty starters.
The Cubs have Matthew Boyd.
16 teams whose left-handed starters have a combined ERA under 4. That's a lot of buzzsaws. That's a lot of lefty buzzsaws.
That is, no question about it. Well, we'll see where this goes. That was the update I got from making a lot of calls this weekend, 4th of July weekend. We'll see what happens. All I know is I need the Royals to start losing. I need the Diamondbacks to start losing. I need the Red Sox. Then I can get Chapman, Lugo, Eugenio Suarez, Merrill Kelly, and then I'll go over to the White Sox and get Adrian Hauser. That's my shot.
You need the Brewers. You need the Brewers to start losing.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We're good.
Yeah.
We're really good. Gordon, have a great rest of your day, man.
All right, you too, Cap. Good luck.
Go Cubs.